TITANUS TIAMAT is back, but is this Titan the strongest Titan? That is what we're gonna figure out today with Goji Center. Is TITANUS TIAMAT the new strongest Titan?
TITANUS TIAMAT.
Let's see.
In the creature profile, Tiamat is said to be the embodiment of primordial chaos.
What do you think? Is Tiamat the strongest?
This Titan could have dated back to the time period where Mesopotamia was a flourishing land of advancing civilization.
Tiamat is scary.
8,000 years BC, where the well-known Babylonian civilization emerged from. The myth states that Tiamat took part in an epic battle that ultimately got her killed and overthrown by her own great-grandson Marduk.
She got killed by her own great-grandson?
Conflict made her synonymous with the said embodiment of primordial chaos. But what other traits does this MonsterVerse Titan borrow from its mythological counterparts?
Almost
Tiamat had an established dominion before getting usurped by another deity. In the MonsterVerse, Tiamat made her home in Godzilla's lair, possibly killing anything currently living there, only to be later defeated and exiled by Godzilla. She did die to Godzilla, though. She is also associated with the deep abyss and serpentine body, similar to some of the creatures Tiamat also created herself. But let's dig a little deeper into the biology of this kaiju.
She created other kaijus?
For starters, this animal shows traits of both reptilian serpents and eels. You'll see why in a little bit. First, we need to state the fact that this animal can thrive at sea and also on land.
If it can look like that?
Why? Because it feeds on electricity. That's right, Tiamat is considered to be a bioelectrical titan, capable of transferring energy currents throughout its body, causing something called electrogenic cells.
I thought it was a water
how exactly does Tiamat use electricity? This gets a little crazy. Using these energy currents, Tiamat will be able to boil the surrounding water at extreme temperatures, instigating a water cycle of sorts that creates powerful electrical superstorms. So massive that they can be seen from outer space. Additionally, the designer of this kaiju did state that Tiamat would be able to travel on land and in the air with water spouts instigated by this ability. This attribute to transmit energy throughout its body is seen in modern-day electric eels.
I think she's already the best.
Electrogenic cells found in Tiamat take form as something called electrocytes in these fish, serving as batteries that emit energy that can be felt in an area covering many meters.
Bro, do you know how cool that is? I mean, that is an actual fish, you know, the eel or whatever. It can emit electricity, and this kaiju can do it out of the water. It can emit in the water, out of the water. It's basically a lightning bolt waiting to happen.
This could be useful as a weapon or worse, a storm producer, potentially killing many life forms on both land and sea.
A storm producer.
The similarities with snakes could rely on the way it moves and hunts.
Is that arms?
This is a titan that can breathe on land and sea.
Why'd she look
Snakes are
beefy?
animals that, if in water, will need to go up to the surface for air. However, some species of sea snakes have adaptations that help them absorb waterborne oxygen through thin areas of skin.
I wish I could breathe underwater, man. That would be so sick.
Allowing snakes to stay underwater a little longer. In Tiamat's case, we could be looking at an exaggerated, evolved version of this, possibly looking at well-developed
If you could breathe under the water, would you live under the water? Let me know.
Tiamat has a vast variety of weapons, one set being the array of sharp-bladed fins that can cut deep, even through thick hides such as that of Godzilla.
And you know she uses that.
Using a blend of both constriction and cutting, Tiamat would be able to dispatch almost any titan using this method, especially those who aren't adapted to living underwater. In the real world, the cat's eye water snake uses this same method to eat hard-shelled crabs. Sinking fangs or constricting it wouldn't be enough, so it resorts to coiling around its target and grinding the edges of its tough scales on the victim and slicing it into chunks while still alive. We can see this similar methodology occur as Godzilla is getting sliced from all directions by Tiamat. What else? It does not take a genius to see similarities between Tiamat's venomous spitting ability and that of spitting cobras. This, however, is listed as phosphorus ink. Because venom is easily diluted in water, this means that it will lose its effect much easier if sprayed on another titan's eye.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Works differently. In the real world, most cephalopods store this ink in sacs inside their mantles.
Gross.
This ink, according to some research, is found to contain compounds that can irritate, numb, or deactivate certain sensory organs.
That's kind of crazy,
Similar to what happened to Godzilla in the graphic novel.
You're getting chased, you can just fart.
Weapon an equivalent of a flashbang of sorts.
Like a flashbang.
Trippy? This
Your fart is a flashbang.
Also tells us that Tiamat has been in containment for some time now. Enough for them to learn to mimic sounds of other species using vocal folds in its tendrils. This could be used as a luring mechanism during predation.
To
but
lure
what's
in
more
somebody
rare
else
is that
to
Tiamat
break
was
her out.
apparently able to mimic human voices. It doesn't talk, but certainly emits sounds that sound like that of humans. Probably implying
Like
a
a
good
scream?
sense of hearing, this Titan, while in containment, would have heard the small voices of monarch scientists long enough to imitate them.
Oh, no.
Lastly, before we move
That's
over to
crazy.
the next kaiju, let's go over this Titan's official size, which is stated to be at
That's good. I don't know.
847 feet in length. This makes it longer than the
800?
wingspan of Mothra, but still shorter than that of Rodan. Despite this, Tiamat's overall
Barely.
length in the comic does seem to surpass this metric, being almost twice as long as Godzilla in these images.
And how big is
Perhaps
Godzilla
this
in
was
them?
the recorded size of Tiamat once it was under containment, then grew to a larger size after its escape in King of the Monsters. Similar to what happened to Godzilla between 2014 and
Wait, why is Godzilla
2019,
vs. Kong and
he
Godzilla X
grew
Kong on
bigger.
here?
Now let's cover an even
she
stranger
in both
Titan
of those?
whose biology will leave you with your head scratching.
Well, we don't know Godzilla X
After we
Kong yet,
finish
but you know what I'm
discussing
saying.
this Titan, we'll cover Nakika, which is known for an
Who?
insane attribute that puts it on par with Kong.
Who was
but
that?
First, let's cover number 2, Titanus Amulak.
I know who this is.
The word Amulak originates from the Kalapuya lore of the natives that once lived in what is now the state of Oregon. Often portrayed as a
Kalapuyan.
ferocious, eerie monster that dwelled in forests and deep lakes, this creature was notorious for killing the surrounding plant ecology, uprooting trees, killing animals, and drowning people.
So he's just
Amulak
evil.
was considered as a
Simple.
monster that was outside the natural order. The description would change
Was that
quite
Behemoth?
frequently, but
Did he
mostly described as an animal with a fanged face,
Behemoth
horns
is
or
always
tendrils
dying, bro.
spotting from the head, bark-like skin across the limbs that lacked hair,
Bark-like
and
skin.
an enormous size. And this thing, for some weird reason, loved to send kids to the afterlife. We discussed this in more
What?
detail in a previous episode. Go check it out after this
Did
video.
we see that one?
Given
I think
these
we saw
traits
that
from
one.
the myth and legend, it's only
That's
plausible
terrible,
that this
bro.
animal would be of malevolent or destroyer nature.
100%.
This is confirmed in the creature profile that we are
He's
about
just
to
evil.
discuss in a few moments. The mythical traits that
379
translate in the
feet, though.
MonsterVerse rendition of Amulak are
Godzilla
the
got him.
following.
Godzilla's
The myth
got him.
states that Amulak did have the bad habit of invading the territories of others and causing disruptions to the natural order of things. Amulak is associated with water dwelling and
okay.
causing problems when coming to land. Horns, or in this case tendrils, are a notable component of this Titan's face.
Dang, we're
being
getting a deep
associated with
dive
chaotic
into here. I like
plant-like
this.
Or barked texture on its exposed limbs while still being an animal in its basis.
So light
and
it on
finally,
fire.
its tendency to drown its victims.
That's all you
Which
gotta
is
do, man.
what it seems like Amulak was trying to do to Behemoth by taking him in deeper water,
It's
invading
always
his home
Behemoth.
and aberrating the surrounding plant life.
Poor
So,
Behemoth.
even if this Titan looks nothing like the original mythological description, it does carry over some important characteristics. The creature profile states that this is in fact the largest flora-fauna specimen they've ever encountered. This combination of words
it is
implies
like
that this
almost
animal is
400
half
feet tall.
creature and half plant. But as we start
Like
to understand
Biollante.
what this Titan is
Right?
composed of, we'll find out that half this creature is a bit of an exaggeration. Let us explain.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
The illustrator of this kaiju,
A bit of
Drew
an
Edward
exaggeration.
Johnson, stated that this animal was composed of mostly hardened vegetation. This profile goes
How
as
do you
far
even
as
call
telling
that an
us
animal?
what type: vines and redwoods. This makes some sense, given that
Redwoods
are
are
one of
huge.
the biggest and
Yeah.
most robust trees on the planet. But how do these form a Titan? It was also stated that the only real sentient
how
part
does
of
that
this
happen?
creature was the head and elongated nerve endings known as biotelekinetic transmitters, telekinetically being able to lift and form surrounding plant life into its limbs.
Oh!
These could be manipulated to give the illusion that these limbs could be stretched, increasing its reach.
Okay,
There
that's
are
kinda
no
crazy.
animals in the real world that do the exact same.
My boy
since
was just made out of
telekinesis
trees
isn't
and
a
stuff.
real non-fictional phenomenon that we know of.
That we
Sticklebacks
know
are
of. I like
spiny
that he
fish
said that.
seem to demonstrate tool use by constructing dwellings to hide from predators. Amulak didn't use this to hide from anything, but did use them as a disguise, which is why this Titan was often mistaken for a small island at times.
He just never needed to
In a
hide from
previous
anything. He's
episode, we
huge.
mentioned that it was theorized that this Titan emitted toxic discharges that killed surrounding organisms. This is
Dang.
confirmed now, given that this profile does state that it has organs that serve as toxic emitters that poison oceanic channels and rivers.
That man is
poisoning
just
animals
pure
and
evil.
plants. But
No
Amulek
way
has
around it.
gotten a little weirder. This animal
And tell
does
me how
seem
it
to
can
have
get
a mix of
weirder,
a
by the
fish-like
way.
face with tentacles
Oh!
or tendrils seen in many cephalopods.
What was that fish?
According
Like
to
the
Drew Johnson,
anglerfish
these
or
could have
something?
been used to latch onto opponents and send psychic blasts directed at the brain. A risky move given that these could get bitten off.
Bro.
But if this animal shares some cephalopod attributes, these arms could possibly regenerate with time.
I'd
How
take Titanus
big
Tiamat,
is
though.
this animal? The creature profile gave us an
I'd take
exact
her over
figure
him.
of 379 feet in height.
379,
making it taller than
pretty big.
Godzilla back in
Yep.
2014, taller
Pretty
than
big.
Behemoth, and making Kong look small.
Oh,
this
no, poor
makes it
Kong.
one of the largest titans in this universe. But the creature profile did
He's a big
add
man.
a major weakness. Making use of these neurotransmitters to send signals to its limbs does make it susceptible to alpha frequencies,
Ooh.
explaining why Godzilla was able to sense what was going on between Behemoth and Amulek at a distance. And weirdly,
Godzilla's
for
a
some
savage,
odd
man.
reason,
He's the
Rick
best.
Strenton, head of Monarch, found that blasting loud music like Van Halen's cover of You Really Got Me from a speaker will disrupt its nervous system. Disrupted nervous system, disrupted telekinesis.
It's kinda like Venom, you know what I'm
rendering this
saying?
animal
They don't like
weak against
loud
other
noises.
titans. Maybe this is yet another reason why this animal backed down so fast from Godzilla after a loud roar. Now, let's cover the
That makes
final titan.
The final Titan.
Number 3, Titanus
Nakika.
Nakika. Originating from the mythology
still don't
of
even
the
know what that
Gilbert
is.
Islands in the Central Pacific, Nakika's myth describes it as an octopus or cuttlefish of giant proportions that was called to patrol the seas and use its strength for creation and destruction.
So it's a
Some
good
versions of the
kaiju
legends
or bad?
even describe it as somewhat human-looking. The
Human?
attributes from the myth that migrate to the MonsterVerse rendition of Nakika are the following. Both
Was
the
that
myth and
Nakika?
Titan are cephalopods with great strength and potential, and a highly intelligent sapient being which owes allegiance to a greater power, that being Godzilla in the MonsterVerse.
So he's good,
This Titan
or her.
was actually
I don't know if it's a
somewhat
him or a
accurate
her.
and true to its mythological counterpart.
It's cool, I
And
can tell
with
you
the
that.
new information obtained from the omnibus release, we are now aware
Oh,
of some
bro.
wild
900
facts.
feet?
Nakika is basically a combination of several cephalopods that existed throughout time in a
That's crazy.
magnified scale. Described as incredibly intelligent, we know that this creature has brains in each of its tentacles, as well as having many hearts
Ugh.
as well. The creature profile
Multiple
describes
hearts?
these tentacles' movements as if they were possessed with a bloodthirsty mind of their own.
Okay, that's
Possibly
crazy.
tipped with sensors that served as the eyes of these arms, with each brain deferring to the commands of the main oversized brain that this animal supposedly has. In a previous episode, we discussed that
Nakika
Nakika
is
was
a
rescued
savage.
by Godzilla, with the G-Man going as far as laying waste to an entire fleet just to save it from its captors. Immediately, you might think
that's
that
why
Godzilla
Nakika
only rescues
pledges
benevolent
alliance.
titans. But no, Monarch's creature profile now catalogs this animal as a destroyer, with good reason, as this animal apparently has a history of devouring entire ships for centuries. One of the major mysteries of this kaiju
Maybe,
was
they
what
just want to
happened
clean
to
up
its
the water.
shell. In the novelization of King of the Monsters, this animal had a curved shell protecting it, and it was mentioned by the artist that Nakika lost it or left it sometime between 2019
Just
and
left
the
it
events during
behind?
Godzilla Dominion.
You didn't want any
This
armor?
At first seemed like a lazy explanation.
Bro, I hope
but that's
Godzilla
why
X
we're
Kong
here,
has a lot
to
of
explain
monsters in it, man.
stuff.
I want to see
Some
all this.
cephalopods, such as octopi, have been known to
That would be so
demonstrate
sick.
complex tool use and understanding of their environment, using objects like shells and coconuts.
Let me know
as
your favorite
armor.
monster out of the three
Similarly,
we've seen
it's
today.
possible that
I think
Titanus
mine's Tiamat.
Nakika could have used a shell of another
She's a
kaiju
savage.
to serve as
That's all I
armor
need to
when
say.
it was hibernating during its containment. The profile also states that this animal can crawl on land as well. Using viscous adhesive from its suction cups, this animal can walk on land. But
So
in
they
order
can
to
walk
do
on
this
land
without
too?
losing its body shape, this animal would need an internal shell to support the integrity of the body shape on land.
Internal
But
shell?
What could Nakika do on dry ground? Would it be vulnerable in combat against other titans?
It would
the
be
creature
huge.
profile gives us two last additional dazzling abilities. But before we reveal it, let's just list out all the combat attributes we know so far
Okay,
about
let's see it.
Nakika.
Let's see it. What you
1,
got?
surprisingly intelligent. 2,
Very
optimized
smart.
sensory organs such as vision and sensors on its tentacles. 3. Camouflage, able to change its coloration
Smart
to
camo,
almost anything.
got the moves.
4.
I mean,
Invisibility to both the naked eye and sensors.
it can go invisible.
5. Able to emit dead Titan frequencies or trick state-of-the-art technology that it's deceased.
Camo,
6.
invisibility,
and finally, one of
and
the
it can
crazy
become
ones.
like it can
This
act dead.
kaiju is
That's
capable
crazy.
of draining elemental energy from other Titans by simply wrapping its tentacles around them, weakening the opposing Titan, and in the act
Hey, yo,
becoming
Nikika?
stronger.
Kind of a savage.
7. We mentioned that Nikika
7?
was able to make landfall and crawl on the ground. It stated that this
I feel like
animal
it would
can
be
snap
slow,
off
though. You know what I'm
large,
saying?
jagged pieces of seabed mantle
like it
and
might be
use
really
them
slow.
as projectiles. This is not limited to just rocks, but also naval craft such as submarines. Imagine witnessing Nikika rising on shore, throwing boats and yachts at other kaiju or at hundreds
I don't
of
wanna imagine.
people. The act of picking up and accurately
Damn.
hurling projectiles in the Monsterverse was an attribute that was only attributed to Kong. Well, no more.
No
TITANUS
more.
Nikika has now received a major upgrade in both strength, intelligence, and even some form of dexterity.
Hey, shout out to
let's not
Nikika.
forget size as well.
Shout out.
Oh yeah, Nikika is given a last upgrade, measuring at 898 feet in length,
The
making
biggest
it the
out of the
longest,
3.
if not the biggest animal on this list in terms of length.
That's crazy.
Which of these Titans do you think received the most upgrades?
Let me know which
ones. Do you
ones.
think were nerfed? Let us know in the comments.
And that is the end of this video. I still really like Tiamat. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching with me. I love y'all. Goodbye.